This is an ABC News special report. Massacre in Las Vegas. Now reporting, George Stephanopoulos.
Good afternoon. We're coming on the air right now because Sheriff Joseph Lombard of Las Vegas Police is about to hold another press briefing at the Las Vegas Police headquarters in just about a minute. Of course, all of the fallout from that massacre yesterday in Las Vegas. 59 people killed, 527 injured by a single gunman armed with an arsenal of rifles, semi-automatic weapons in Las Vegas. It all unfolded 10:07 p.m. on Sunday night in Las Vegas, and the fallout has been horrific. We are waiting for this press conference right now. I'm here with our chief investigative correspondent, Brian Ross. We've learned a lot more in the last couple of days about Stephen Paddock's activities. Still no clear indications of a motive.
Nothing that fits the profile as best we know of a mass murderer at all. A man who had some money. His brother said he was a multimillionaire, was a kind of a loner, but did not had any record with police. Only problem in court was he once sued a casino because he fell down on the floor. Other than that, no other issues. Authorities are very eager to talk with the longtime girlfriend, Mary Lou Danley, who was in the Philippines at the time of the shooting, but especially after the discovery of so many weapons in the house they shared, George, in Mesquite, Nevada. They're very eager to talk to her and ask her, how could she not know something?
Senior Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas, what is it, 23 weapons in the house, 19 weapons in the hotel room, automatic weapons, or at least altered so they could fire as an automatic weapon.
Exactly, George. And law enforcement officials perplexed about the scale of what this man planned and how precise he was, George. And 42 weapons that he had amassed. Again, so many that had been converted, we're told, at least 2 converted, that would take them from basically operating as a semi-automatic rifle to one that functioned essentially as a machine gun. Continuous flow of bullets coming out and making it very easy to shoot all those people.
Matt Gutman on the scene in Las Vegas. You've been inside the Mandalay Bay Hotel. More information about how Mr. Paddock spent those final 72 hours.
It seemed that he hunkered down in there, George, pretty extensively for those 48 hours. And in the aftermath, we've seen these new pictures of that suite from which he fired. He apparently punched through 2 holes and just exposed this entire concert venue to fire. And what's most startling about this is that those long guns that we've been talking to, the .762 caliber weapons, have a range of up to 1,000 yards, easily within range of this venue. But that crime, that attack, could not have been committed had he only been using handguns. They simply don't have the range. It's about 350 to 400 yards from his hotel window into that concert venue down below, George.
Also had a tripod to stabilize the guns and remote camera set up in the room?
That's right. We hear that there are cameras, or he had at least one camera at some point trained on himself for part of it. Obviously, the FBI and other agencies are keeping that very close to the vest. And, of course, we don't know the purpose of that camera, as we still don't know his motivation for perpetrating this horrific act, George.
Pierre Thomas, we don't know his motivation. We know he frequented casinos, was in some ways, I'm not going to use the word professional, but he was an avid gambler, video poker.
Lots of activity, lots of transactions. We're tracking as many as 200 transactions that he may have made that may have come to the attention of law enforcement, George. Again, so many unanswered questions. And one official I talked to just a couple hours ago said, Pierre, by now we normally know a lot more about motive. Very concerning. Well,
one of the things, Brian Ross, is apparently they hadn't found yet any social media accounts.
Not that we can see at all. His girlfriend did have a Facebook page now taken down, but nothing that we saw of Mr. Paddock, not at all.
And Mary Lou Danley, one of the things that surprised all of us yesterday was how quickly the police came to the conclusion, authorities came to the conclusion, they said that she was not involved in this in any way. Is there skepticism rising?
It certainly is, and they're dialing back that early statement, saying now they want to talk to her about the possibility she may have had a role. The question really, how could she not know there were so many weapons in the house, that he had been stockpiling these over several weeks? And also the question of the money transfers he made to the Philippines, tens of thousands of dollars in the weeks before the shooting, sent to the Philippines to someone there.
Yeah, we know that he sent the money to the Philippines. We don't know it was to her.
That's right.
But one of the things we also learned yesterday, Brian, is that the couple in Mesquite had seen them as recently as 2 weeks ago, they said, acting relatively normally.
That's right. She arrived in the Philippines, according to travel records that ABC has reviewed, on September 15th, which was just 2 weeks or so before the shooting. She had not been there in a couple of years. She was there, made a quick trip to Hong Kong, back to the Philippines, and was in the Philippines on the day of the shooting, we were told.
And here comes Sheriff Lombardo. Let's listen in.
I don't have room for... this is not going to work. You everybody in? Where's Ken? Oh, there he is. I keep my eye on you. Here, how are you? Carlos? We good? All right, we're not going to show any video. Okay. All right, good afternoon, everybody. You're all aware who I am, Sheriff Joe Lombardo, Clark County. There's going to be a little bit different orchestration in this press conference as compared to the rest. What I'm going to do right now, I think it's important that we address the victim issues we are experiencing and the resource issues that we are experiencing. So I'm going to key on that, on the original portion of this, and then subsequently Commissioner Pls is going to provide some donation information and acknowledgement. And then after that, I will come back to the podium and address the overall investigation, where we stand and where we are going. Now, reference the investigation piece, I don't want to repeat of what I experienced yesterday. It's an ongoing investigation, so I'll be limited in the details that I provide you, but hopefully we can get through this with some modicum of decorum. So please don't rush me all at once. When we get to the question phase, I will identify you if you just raise your hand. Sound fair? All right, we'll get through this. Okay, so as matter as formality, our department has worked through the night to identify all the victims of Sunday evening's mass shooting at the Route 91 Harvest Festival. We have identified all but 3 victims. We still have an active scene at the grounds near Mandalay Bay, so we ask anyone to stay away from that area until further notice. The FBI is working diligently to clear that scene. So the question is, the FBI versus us. We have partnered with the FBI, as I said from the very beginning of this, in the investigative phase. The FBI has brought a large amount of resources out of Washington, D.C. to assist us with that. So the reason why the Harvest Festival is still in continuation of investigation is not only solely related to the removal of the victims, but is also documentation of the scene. So we're using the best practice technology to ensure that we have complete documentation. That's why it's taking a longer period of time associated with this. So we ask for everybody's patience. As far as Las Vegas Boulevard, north and south, we anticipate to be open shortly in the next few hours to benefit with commerce and what we do as a community. All right, the key component here is resources and victim identification. So bear with me. I'm going to try to get through this the best I can, but the important piece is if you missed a number, we are putting up on lvmpd.com in the next hour the listing of all numbers I shall provide you today, and for people out in the public to contact us if they are lacking this or they don't see this broadcast. Okay, we're asking for anyone who might have information about the shooting in a criminal capacity or is a victim of the shooting to contact us via 311. If you are out of state, if you have left since the shooting and you have discovered you feel that you have become a victim, or you realize you have an injury associated to it, we're still asking you to contact us, but the out-of-state number will be 702-828-3111. Additionally, if you are local and you have the ability to respond to a local substation, a working police substation, locals are familiar with, you have the ability to file a report at that location. Now, the family reunification. All that is occurring at the Family Resource Center at the Convention Center located at 3150 Paradise Road. You can go there to file a missing person report. You can go there to have contact with the coroner's office. You can go there to get answers to your questions as far as family reunification. The phone number, if you have left the area, is 1-866-535-5654. Now, we went through a little short process here recently where that number was down. We provided a separate number, but we will go back to that original number because we have the technical aspects of that fixed. So I want to be very clear on the difference. If you are reporting a crime or you feel you are a victim of a crime, 311 is your outlet or a local police substation. If you are looking for victim information or family reunification, the Family Resource Center on Paradise Road is your point of contact. Now, personal property. We were getting several questions throughout yesterday and continuing today on people attempting to recover their personal property from the Route 91 scene. We are working out the details of that. We're in the planning phase of that, and we will have an answer for that in the next couple hours. So lvmpd.com will provide an answer to that probably before we have another press conference. But we are working diligently to get individuals who left personal property at the scene back to them as soon as possible. I anticipate it will not take place at the Route 91 location, but I do not want to give you furtherance of clarification at this point. So you will be provided that. The other issue is donations. As you can imagine, in any critical incident, the outpouring of support from private citizens, corporations, and everybody else associated with concern for the victims is overwhelming. And we appreciate that. But it comes a point where we can't manage it. Now, the Red Cross is unable to manage it. We are unable to manage it at the substations. So if it's hard goods, such as water or canned goods or stuff that will not become perishable, 3 Square and Catholic Charities is accepting those donations. So we're asking you to provide that information to your listening public and to accept donations at that point. So the areas of, and let me give you the addresses for those. So Catholic Charities is obviously at 1501 Las Vegas Boulevard North, and 3 Square is located at 4190 North Pecos Road. At this point, I will acquiesce to Commissioner Pls, and he will give you an update on the donation phase of this as far as victim satisfaction, and then I will return and we will conduct a Q&A associated with the investigation. Commissioner.
Thank you, Sheriff, and we appreciate you all being here today to give you a bit of an update on where we stand. The fund that the Sheriff and I set up yesterday has now surpassed 53,000 individual donations. It's in excess of $3.7 million as we speak. I want to bring especially, we need a lot more resources. We're going to need a lot more money. We've got individuals that are going to need future surgeries and help and so forth moving forward. I want to acknowledge a few special individuals not included in that total of $3.7 million. Last night, a private citizen called both the Sheriff and I and contributed $500,000 to the fund. That is not included in that total. This morning, Wayne and Kathleen Newton called me, and they have donated $100,000. That is not included in that total. For those who want to contribute and don't want to do it on GoFundMe, you can make a check to Las Vegas Victims Fund and mail it either to the county office, to my office, or to the sheriff's office. But I just got off the phone with Jim Murrin from MGM International, and the sheriff and I both spoke to Jim, and obviously they have stepped up in an enormous manner with this community and everything that they continue to do. And on behalf of MGM and their over 50,000 employees, they have contributed $3 million to this fund. So we appreciate everyone's support, the donations from $5 to now $3 million. And there's a lot of need, and we are going to do everything we possibly can to raise money for each of these individuals. So we appreciate you continuing to encourage folks, your viewers and readers, to support the campaign. It's Las Vegas Victims, either on GoFundMe, or you can make a check to Las Vegas Victims Fund. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Sheriff. We're working through the idea of possible distribution. It comes with, we've already got some inquiries. I think it's going to be a few days before we can coordinate how we're going to distribute money. Right now, we're not looking at the minor property losses that some people have called on regarding, you know, backpacks and shoes and phones. We're looking at more major expenses as it relates to, you know, surgeries, medical expenses, funeral expenses, transportation, so forth. But we should have more details with you. We're working through the county office and the sheriff's office to develop something in the immediate future in terms of where people can go, who they can call to start distributing the money that the people are most desperate. So thank you all very much.
Okay, just a quick synopsis or current status of the investigation. I won't reiterate what we discussed yesterday in previous press conferences, but we have completed the investigation at the Reno property, and I'm sure the question will be presented, what was recovered there. So it was numerous electronic items, additionally 5 handguns and 2 shotguns, and a plethora of ammunition. So we have served search warrants at 3 separate locations. That would be the room at the Mandalay Bay, the Mesquite location, and the Reno location. Additionally, we served a search warrant on the suspect's vehicle located at the Mandalay Bay. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Can you be specific about the modifications to the weapons to make them automatic? Because there are different versions of what that can mean. What were we talking about here?
The question was, what are the modifications associated with the weaponry? ATF is participating in that evaluation. I can't give you an answer on whether any of them are automatic or not, but we are aware of a device called a bump stock, and that enables an individual to speed up the discharge of ammunition. I don't want to give you any more details than that, but in partner with the FBI, the ATF, they are sending those weapons back east to the FBI crime lab for further evaluation.
Sure. You say you found that there in the bump stock?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Has the girlfriend,
Yes, sir.
Mary Lou Damley, has she given authorities information about his motive, about his movement? And so can you tell us what that information is?
No, we don't have that information yet, but I will assure you that the investigation with her is ongoing, and we anticipate some information here from her shortly. Yes, ma'am.
We have some information in regards to $100,000.
No, ma'am, I do not. Now, here you go. So let me back up a little bit. There's a lot of information I do know, okay? But it's an ongoing investigation, and when I say I do not know, I may know. But as you can imagine, in a criminal investigation, we want to ensure the continued safety of our community, and that all those questions are answered. And I assure you, this investigation is not ended with the demise of Mr. Paddock.
Sheriff, can I ask you a question
Yes.
here? Could you give us an update, if there is an update, on the victims and the injuries? And also, is there anything new? The key question we've all been wondering about, are you making any progress, whether you're able to give specifics or not, are you making any progress on determining a motive?
No, I'll answer your last question first. No. We are making progress, but I don't have complete answers yet. So I anticipate a substantial amount of information to come in the next 48 hours. Hold on, let me finish the rest of it. As far as the injuries, you know, it goes across the board. The coroner commented on that yesterday. We have trampled injuries. We have people trying to escape, injuries of their own device. We have gunshot wounds. So if you're looking at total type of injuries associated with all their injuries and the people that died, it goes across the board. I can't give you a percentage associated with gunshot versus other types of injuries.
Are the numbers, though, the general numbers, 59, 525, have those changed, or are they the same?
We believe the injury number has decreased slightly. And when I say slightly, maybe 20, because we had a double count error occurring at one of the hospitals.
Yep.
But we're looking close and still in close proximity of the number I provided you.
Can you tell us her whereabouts and spoken to her directly already?
I can't tell you her current whereabouts right now. All I know is the Philippines, and we are in conversation.
Do you know what she's
She's in
referring?
Japan.
Is she a suspect?
Currently, she's a person of interest.
Sheriff?
Who is this?
The girlfriend.
She's a person
Yes.
Sheriff?
Yes, ma'am.
The Daily Mail has released photos that say that show the hotel room after the SWAT team entered, and it shows guns and ammunition inside. Many outlets are re-disseminating. Can you verify the legitimacy of these photos, and should any other outlets disseminate them?
I can't verify whether they're legitimate or not. What I can tell you is I'm very troubled by it. We have an internal investigation occurring as we speak on how those photographs were obtained by the public forum.
Sheriff, can you talk then to what was found inside that hotel room that the gunman used? Specifically, CBS News is reporting that there was a camera inside that room. Was the gunman recording? Was the gunman transmitting that video anywhere else?
I'm not aware of any transmission, but there was cameras. There was cameras located outside of the room and inside of the room, along with the firearms.
And he had set up how many cameras?
I don't know what the specific numbers do you know, Aaron? Well, I anticipate he was looking for anybody coming to take him into custody.
So essentially, you have a recording of him carrying out this carnage?
No, that's not essentially what I'm saying. That is being evaluated. The FBI took all digital and electronic evidence into custody, and we are evaluating.
Sheriff?
Yes, sir.
Do we know if this man was targeting this particular event, or did he have in mind perhaps another music event that was going to be coming up in the Las Vegas area as a possible target? Have you developed any evidence?
No, we haven't developed that yet.
So
I will provide you that information at a later date.
To follow on that, there's a report that he may have intended to target the Life is Beautiful concert.
We're unable to confirm that.
The week before.
We're unable to confirm that.
Sheriff, I have a question. About the 72 minutes that transpired, we're just trying to get clarity as to, once it took 72 minutes for the SWAT team to go to the shooter's hotel room, from when the shots were reported to the time when they entered the hotel room and then they were doing, can you give us a little more specifics about
What's the clarity? What's the clarity you're seeking?
Specifics as to how it went down, what time the shots rang out, what time you guys got the call.
We received the call at 10:08 p.m. The best of our estimates and video review, he continued to fire at a progressive successive rate for approximately 9 minutes. As you can see by any video you see in the public space, it was hard to determine where they were coming from. Once it was evaluated, it was coming from the Mandalay Bay. As you can imagine how hard it would be to pinpoint the room from the outside. Officers subsequently teamed up, and moved over to the Mandalay Bay in order to locate and engage. But that was in conjunction with the Mandalay Bay security. Now, this is an opportunity for me to tell you something. The Mandalay Bay security was fantastic. I don't want anybody assuming that they are unsafe by, staying at one of our hotels. We would not have engaged this individual in the time lapse that we did without their assistance. We received information via their dispatch center and or their operations center, their call center, from individuals staying within the Mandalay Bay that helped us locate where this individual was sequestered. Hold on, I want to finish her question. All right. And so subsequently, that takes time. As you can imagine, moving from the location of the event, deciding whether you're going to help victims evacuate or you're going to decide whether you're going to take charge and put an element together and go engage this individual. So we have a lot of bifurcation of responsibilities associated, especially in a dynamic event. I want to say kudos to those officers that got together and said, this is what we trained for, active shooter, we're putting an element together, let's go engage this individual and locate them. Okay? And that's what we did. And when the security officer was engaged by the suspect, we backed off for immediate apprehension, and SWAT team formed and made entry.
What time was the security officer engaged?
I don't have that time for you.
Sheriff, how concerned are you about your officers facing weapons like these?
Absolutely concerned. The world has changed, and you know, who would have ever imagined this situation? I couldn't imagine it, and for this individual to take it upon himself to create this chaos and harm is unspeakable. And you know, we have to try to spitball or what if these situations at all points when we train, and ensure that we have proper response, and I think we did a fantastic job.
So, Sheriff, Mandalay Bay Security identified the room before SWAT arrived?
No. Well, yeah, before SWAT arrived, but not before my officers arrived. They were married or hand-to-hand with my officers when we made entry over to the hotel. And it was a matter, if you recall yesterday, I said between floor 29 and 32. And during that process of evaluating the floors, we received additional information where he was located, and they immediately responded.
Sheriff, what time did SWAT breach?
I don't have that number for you.
And there's only one row.
Did he continue to shoot from 10:08 until the SWAT team came in, or why did he stop shooting?
That's for us to evaluate in the investigation.
Sure. Were the bodies found scattered throughout the venue, or were they in one particular area?
No, they were throughout the venue. They even had some victims that met their demise outside of the venue. And then we had individuals who had been shot, and they continued to run away, and then they passed away several blocks from the venue. Sure. We also had very heroic acts of people attending the event. We have numerous videos depicting people attending, normal citizens providing medical aid and providing transportation for victims to get to the hospital.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Going back to the point that my colleague said on the camera that was set up in the room, sounds, at least I'm sorry if I'm interpreting this wrongly, it sounds like he has set those cameras up to give himself warning of the approach of police officers.
You know,
in your mind, if that indeed was the case, and I know you don't want to get into the mind of a madman as you put, how would you judge this man's preparation and determination to do this based on those factors?
I don't even need that bit of information to make a judgment. This individual is premeditated, obviously premeditated. The fact that he had the type of weaponry and amount of weaponry in that room, it was pre-planned extensively, and I'm pretty sure he evaluated everything that he did in his actions, which is troublesome. I was hoping, you know, I pray that in these situations that a citizen, because we can't be at all places at all times, that a citizen sees something, says something, and we act on that. Quite often what we experience in our line of work, a citizen thinks it's trivial, and they say, no, I don't want to bother the police. We ask you to bother the police, because those individuals, especially housekeeping type individuals or any cab drivers, anybody in the public space that can assist us, we ask them to call it.
Do you believe his girlfriend had any knowledge?
Okay, let me ask back here, Ricardo.
Police or security guards fire any shots anytime during the encounter?
While he was discharging his weapons, we are not aware of that. No security guard or police other than the encounter at the room.
And can you expand on what went right? I know you practice for scenarios like this, maybe not exactly this scenario. Can you expand on what went right with first responders?
You know what, I'm glad you asked that, Ricardo, because obviously people have the assumption things went wrong in this type of carnage. But what went right is we saved hundreds of lives. In an event, and this guy having the ability with those weaponry, the carnage that could occur outside of what did occur, a lot more was prevented because of our police action in short time and private security action in short time to save some lives.
Sure. Can I ask you,
With all of this in the room, the cameras now, the guns, everything else, yesterday you had said that there had been hotel staff inside that room during the stay. Is that still believed? Did he turn away housekeeping? Did housekeeping go in there during this time?
The only thing I know at this point is room service was provided.
Sheriff, can I ask you, on the motive, and I'm sorry, but I just wanted to clarify, do you believe you are going to find the motive for this crime?
I absolutely believe that.
Sheriff?
Girlfriend, do you know where she is?
Yes, I do.
And
Why is FBI not trying to bring her back to the media?
How do you know that's not occurring?
I guess that's what I'm asking. Is that what's happening?
That is occurring.
Sheriff,
Yes, ma'am.
You all have been investigating this nonstop for the last several days. How are you and your investigators doing?
I'm so glad you asked that. No, I am. I'm not being sarcastic. We're doing good. I'm actually very proud of our people. I mean, this guy here is the local SAC, Aaron Rouse, in charge of the FBI. You know, it's important. Greg Castle talked about this yesterday, the chief of the Clark County Fire Department. I'm telling you right now, this jurisdiction has the best partnerships, I believe, in the United States as far as public safety. We would not be able to accomplish what we did, as you described, in the last 48 hours without that partnership. The FBI stepping to the plate to help us with evidence, documentation, and prosecution.
Pride there from Sheriff Joseph Lombardo, saying that his team saved hundreds of lives, perhaps, during that shooting in Las Vegas just 2 nights ago. Also says he's frankly worried about his people, saying the world has changed. Some news there in the press conference as well. The sheriff saying that the injury count has gone down by about 20. There was some double counting at one of the hospitals. Also more on Stephen Paddock, the shooter, in the arsenal he carried. I want to bring in our senior justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas. And Pierre, a couple things there from the sheriff. Number one, he said he couldn't be sure that there were automatic weapons, but that Mr. Lombardo had those bump stocks, which can convert a semi-automatic weapon into an automatic weapon. Also confirmed there were cameras in that room.
George, he's confirming some of the critical details we've been reporting. The bump stocks allow an assault rifle to function almost exactly like a machine gun. The amount of bullets that come out, they come out so much more quickly. Also, we have reporting tonight that the suspect had a camera outside of the room, as well as the information that we broke yesterday about a camera being inside the room. The camera outside of the room, according to a source, would have allowed the suspect to monitor police potentially as they were approaching.
Yeah.
One source said they've never seen anything like this in terms of the planning and the meticulous planning involved.
He could see when they were coming, how much time he had. Brian Ross, lots of questions as well about the roommate, Mary Lou Danley. Sheriff saying she's still in the Philippines. They hope to get more information from her soon. Perhaps most interestingly, asked if she's the suspect, he said, currently a person of interest.
And that's a significant change from being just a helpful witness. She is labeled now a person of interest, which in law enforcement terms means she's not quite a suspect, but she's not off the hook either, particularly because the discovery of so many weapons in the home they shared in Mesquite, Nevada, and the explosives and the ammunition there all raised the question of how could she not know something was going on.
Matt Gutman, the questions also about those final 48 hours and the questions about if that camera actually captured the shooting itself.
We don't know that just yet, George. The FBI has possession of those tapes. They're obviously going to do a very thorough forensic check over them. But one interesting tidbit that we saw from some of these new images that we put out from that room or just outside the room is that he was, in fact, using room service. So the notion is that he had shut himself into that room for a couple of days. That we do know that it had been serviced a couple of times. The question is, how was he able to conceal that mass amount of weaponry? More than 20 weapons, thousands of rounds of ammunition from the people who were coming in and out of the room. And how come nobody found him out? I know the Sheriff Lombardo commended the work of security at Mandalay Bay, but these are still questions that this investigation is really going to have to look into, George.
Okay, thank you all very much. All of you will be joining David Muir in Las Vegas for a special edition tonight of Worlds. And you can get at home breaking news alerts anytime by downloading our ABC News app. I'm George Stephanopoulos in New York. Have a good day.
This has been a special report from ABC News.